So good morning, everybody. We're going to start with just a short meditation with some music by Zazen. And I want to take a moment to explain a little trick or technique that you can use when we're caught up in the drama of the world. Because as we know, we live in a very dramatic world. So a little kind of technique that has worked for me is you feel your mind just feeling the existential crisis of all the horrors of the world. And you notice that's where your mind keeps going when you try to focus. You just keep seeing all of that. When you catch yourself doing that, bring your focus down into a more localized version. So whatever your personal drama is. So we're essentially trading the big global existential drama for something that's very personal, whatever issue that you might happen to be dealing with today. Now we're still caught up in the story, right? So from this localized place of, oh, this is my problem that I'm dealing with, focus in on either beauty or gratitude. I find gratitude is really wonderful because you can feel gratitude for just your breath, just the ability to breathe and the reminder that you are alive. Sometimes that's hard to access, so you can also use something that's beautiful in your space, like the color of the carpet, or if you have a tree or a flower nearby, you can appreciate the beauty of that. And allow yourself to practice this. This is our mindfulness technique, right? But it also works for our meditation. So we're going from global concern to local concern, and then moving our mind into a state of beauty or gratitude, and letting go of all the stories, and we just keep returning to that beauty or gratitude. And what that does is it opens up a much more beautiful mind state that allows us to focus much easier because we don't have the incessant story happening. And now that you're in a space of beauty or gratitude, we can settle in and focus on the heart. So just allow your mind to rest there. And we'll put on just one song and focus. So today we are talking about cultivating personal power and emotions, thoughts, and perception. We cultivate personal power by sitting in meditation like we just did. That is where we source our power, if you will. We tap into the infinity of being, eternal awareness that's always here, but we miss it because we're so busy. But by meditating, we're allowing that power to flow through us. But then we have to interact with the world. You know, it doesn't do us much good if we just can only have power when we're sitting still. We have bodies, we want to move, we want to interact with this playground that we find ourselves in. So in order to do that, we have to start to really look at how the mind works. So we're starting today with emotions and thoughts and perception. Now, emotions are beautiful because they're fleeting. But we do this funny thing where we judge our emotions and we decide these emotions are good and these emotions are bad. And we take it even a step further where individually and even societally we decide that the bad emotions need to be either hidden away or completely repressed. Like hidden away in the sense that you can only feel those emotions if you're alone, or if you're around other people, then you have to pretend that they're not there and just push them down. And this creates what I have called a state of stuffering, where you're just stuffing your truth, essentially, and pretending to be a spiritual person. So I'm not a fan of stuffering. I would like to stop the stuffering and actually deal with reality, deal with truth. And the truth is, emotions are fleeting. They arise for a fraction of a second and then they're gone. And a new emotion arises and is gone. And again, and again, and again. And they're just like these little bursts that happen within our being. And sometimes there's a chemical reaction, like if we have a sudden fright, the emotion of fear rushes through us, and that sets off a whole cascade of chemicals within our being, preparing us for, the flight or the fight or the freeze or the fawn, whatever we need to do in order to make ourselves feel safe. Pleasure is a wonderful emotion. That sense of just sensual joy, I guess, is what pleasure is. There's some sensation that happens that feels good. We're like, that's nice. And then it's gone. And then we get upset and we're like, it's gone. That's another emotion. But again, it just bursts into our mind and our being, in our body. Sometimes it sets off a chemical reaction, sometimes it doesn't. But even if it does, that chemical reaction really only lasts 90 seconds, unless you feed it. That's where thoughts come in. So we have this burst of emotion, and what do? We immediately think about the emotion. There's first that judgment. Am I allowed to have this emotion in this place? Oh, I better hide that. It's not masculine, or it's not feminine, or it's not appropriate for this setting. I'm at work, I can't have sadness. Or I'm at work, I can't be too happy. And we start to think about the emotion, or anger flashes through us. Maybe it's not even our anger. Maybe somebody was just walking by and they were angry. That's the interesting thing about emotions, is they jump from person to person. Sometimes there's not even our emotion, we just somebody, and you've all experienced this. Somebody walks by you laughing, and you suddenly feel that little laughter in your own being. Somebody walks by you angry, and you feel that little flash of anger. That one you probably don't notice as much, because immediately the thoughts kick in and create a story around that anger, or around that fear, or around that sorrow, or around that joy. And suddenly you're no longer feeling the emotion, but you're in a story about the emotion. And this very interesting play happens then, because the emotion sparked a train of thought, and now this train of thought is going and it's sparking more emotion, which sparks more thought, which sparks more emotion, sparks more thought. And so we have this messy interplay happening. And of course, as our awareness grows, we're coming in the middle of all this. All of this is happening. It's not like we turn everything off and then boom, all of a sudden it's happening. It's been continually happening since we were born, since we took on this body. All of these sensations and our emotions about these sensations, and our thoughts about the emotions about our sensations. It gets very, very confusing very quickly. This is why meditation is so wonderful, because we focus down into one little point, and we just let the tornado spin around us, and yet we're in this still point of infinite eternal awareness, where we feel the power of all that is rush through us. And sometimes if we can go silent enough, we'll feel the unconditioned joy, what I call unreasonable joy. There's no reason for it, it's just joy. But then we get up from our meditation cushion, we start interacting with the world, and now we have this assault of emotions, and then the internal response of thought. And as we're doing this dance of emotions popping up and then thoughts creating stories around the emotions, which generates more emotions, that interplay creates a filter through which we view the world, and actually alters our perception. Everyone is living in their own world. And I think right now in our current century, this year of 2026, on the 4th of July, we're seeing this disparity where people have wildly different perceptions about reality right now. And in one sense, it's absolutely fascinating. You know, as you interact with different people, and it's like, wow, you really believe that. That is really how you are viewing the world. And they're saying the same thing, of like, wow, you really believe that. On the other hand, it's terrifying, because we're all in this together, and we're all interacting. And if we can't agree upon a basis then communication is very difficult. And without communication, then we fall into the existential horrors that we were talking about at the beginning. But what we can do is maintain our own view, our own perception. We can learn to work with our own thought patterns and allow the emotions that exist to just flutter through us without being taken out by them. We can allow any sensation that arises in our being to simply be. But what happens is our thoughts create the story. And it can be very uncomfortable. I came across a really good line. It said, your nervous system does not care if you're happy. It just wants you to be safe. Your nervous system does not care if you're happy. It just wants you to be safe. So and your nervous system is gaining information through sensation and through thought, and through that filter, those two combined creates our perception of the world. So if you are indulging in thoughts that invite a sense of anxiety or anger or fear or sorrow, your nervous system is going to get more and more wound up. And the mind, being this wonderful servant, will take that filter that is curating your perception and say, oh, you would like more things that make you angry. You would like more things that cause you to experience fear. More things that bring on anxiety. More things that make you sad. And it will actually, your mind will lead you to the experience of more of these things. And that's not good or bad. That's simply how it works. But again, we get this heavy judgment on it. It says, oh, that's horrible. But again, that's beside the point. That is, when we sink into that judgment, that becomes that self-importance we talked about in earlier talks, where we think that our experience, our judgment, is truth. And it's just perception of the moment, colored by the emotions and the thoughts that triggered this filter through which you're seeing the world. Now, that doesn't mean what you're seeing isn't really happening, what you're experiencing isn't really happening. If you, I'll use one that happened to me the other day, a few weeks ago. I was trying to pull a weed and it was being very stubborn, and I put my full body weight against this weed, and I'm on a little hill, of course, so I got my full weight, and then finally it gave way, and my hand moved, and just on this little joint on my thumb slammed into a wooden post. So boom, there's the sensation of pain. Then there's the emotion of, oh, I should, the stupidity, I'm so stupid, I should have seen that happening. And then the fear of, oh God, it hurts, did I break it? And then the thoughts of, oh, I should have known better. And it creates this whole dynamic that's happening. And then, weeks later, it's still a little tender if I touch it just right. It's like, ow. And it would be very easy to create an entire world the size of my thumb joint, where everything in my life becomes, centered around the thumb joint. And for first few days, it was like, my husband and I like to hold hands, but I'm like, ow, can't hold it that way. Adjust. But if I wasn't watching my mind, then that sensation of pain could grow and get bigger, and then the worry about, oh, maybe it is broken, maybe I do need to go do something, although I don't know what they would actually do. But you see, so something so small as just banging your hand can turn into a complete world in your mind. And this is true for any situation you find yourself in that triggers an emotional state followed by a mental state of thought. And then it creates this perception. So now I'm on the lookout of things I might bang into. The world becomes one I have to protect myself from being banged into. Or you can see the fleeting nature of the emotions that arise, of the sensations that arise. Oh yes, there's pain. Oh yep, there's that emotion of foolishness, the anger, the sorrow. Oh, I hurt myself. The fear. Oh, it's broken. The hope. Oh, maybe it's not. And all of that just tumbles through. And watching how the thoughts want to create a narrative, want to create a story in order to build a filter of perception. But you can short circuit it by just being fully present in the moment without suppressing, without recoiling away from what's actually happening. Because yes, when I banged it, I said, ow! And then that got it out. Like, you can try this as an experiment the next time you stub your toe or bang your hand. If you try to stifle that, hold it in, it will hurt more. It will hurt longer. Because the body wants to process that emotion. But if you just allow that emotion to rise and then it disappears, it rises and falls away, rises and falls away. And if we keep watching, we notice that thoughts do the same thing. They're just a little more complex. They're a little more interesting, you might say, because it's usually not just a random thought. It's a whole train of thoughts that develops into a story that is very engaging. So then we invite it into our mind, and now maybe on social media we've been interacting with somebody, and now we have this whole story about who we think they are, and it's probably not accurate. It's just a version of that person in our head. And we do this all the time to each other. But the truth is, every time you meet somebody, every time you interact with somebody, including yourself, you're brand new. You're infinite and eternal awareness. How that light of awareness is being expressed in this moment is never exactly the same. But that's terrifying to the nervous system that just wants you to be safe. It wants things to be the same. It wants things to be familiar. So if suddenly you're in unfamiliar territory, what happens? The emotion of fear, anxiety, and then the thought about what's causing that anxiety, the ruminations of why that might be so, and am I allowed to have this? And if not, then I better suppress it and then create another cover story. And now we have this double layer of perception where we're hiding from ourselves and others. And then we're pushing out this fake image that we know is fake. And then when we interact with others, they feel like you're not being entirely truthful. Why are they not being truthful? So now we have the emotion of paranoia. And then they go through the whole thing where they get anxious and hide that and push that. And we miss each other. We miss this opportunity to dance together in the light of awareness. So I want to invite you to cultivate your personal power by meditating. And then as you rise from your cushion or your chair, to really pay attention to when thoughts arise and don't cling to them. Don't judge them. Just notice, oh, there's a little flash and then it's gone. Oh, a different flash and it's gone. And then really pay attention to when a strong one comes through and the thoughts wrap around it. And now you're on the little thought train. And then more thoughts are coming in, building a whole story, constructing a filter, and now you've built an entire perception of how you think the world is and how you think you are. And in that moment of recognizing that this structure has been built, just by recognizing that it's been built and putting your attention on that structure, without judging it as good or bad. That's the hook. That's the attachment, right? We decide it's either good and I want to keep it and this is the correct way to view the world. Everybody should have this view, so I'm going to work really hard to push it out on everybody. Or this is a bad view. I shouldn't have this view. Nobody should have this view. I need to eliminate this view. Both are attachments, and they're just views. They're just a structure holding your mind in a certain way. So keep putting your awareness, your attention, on the fact that you're viewing reality through a structure. And if you keep looking at it, let it twist and turn in your mind, eventually that structure will collapse. And of course, there'll probably be a sense of uncertainty because our nervous system doesn't like that. So it'll be like, what's happening? But if you just allow that emotion, that sensation to just arise and fall away, any thoughts that come up arise and fall away, we come back to this quiet, peaceful center of joy. And we start to notice how beautiful everything is. That even the so-called painful emotions have a certain element of beauty to them. Now, that doesn't mean that we want to go out of our way to cultivate painful emotions. We don't want to do that any more than we want to cultivate pleasurable emotions. We're just allowing whatever is to arise and fall away. Arise and fall away. And when we do this, we find this, the only way I can explain it is a flow of knowingness, where there's no hard judgment about what should be or shouldn't be. There's just this recognition of, oh, this is what is, and this is what needs to be done for the benefit of all. This is what would be compassionate. This is what would help alleviate the suffering of others and allow them to see truth. And that's where it can get a little tricky, because we start putting our own judgments on it. But if we keep coming back to the still center of the tornado, and we start to trust in our own actions, there's an ease and a grace that accompanies those, and we just find ourselves doing things not for some reward, not out of some sense of greatness, but for the very simple reason that it needs to be done. Like a very minute example is this morning when I was coming in, and I put the sign out on the sidewalk, and this couple had walked in through the courtyard and had turned around and walked out, and just spontaneously I said hello. And they said hello, and then all of a sudden they stopped and they're like, "Where's the bathroom? Where's a public bathroom?" And they were desperate. And I was able to point them around the corner. So I was able to offer a service. I didn't plan on offering a service. It was just this spontaneous connection of like, oh, hello. I wasn't trying to make anything happen. But in that moment, that's what needed to happen. And when we live this way, in this present moment, life unfolds in the most beautiful and wondrous ways. So I want to invite you to participate in that, to engage with light and dance and pay attention, and try not to get so caught up in your stories, in your perceptions. You're more than what you think. You're more than what you feel. And again, the way we cultivate enough power to be able to do this is through meditation. So let's meditate. We will do some more zazen music. Let me see. We've got about 20 minutes, so we'll do 3 songs where you can focus on the navel center for the first song, the heart center, center of the chest for the second song, and the last song, focus on the third eye, right in between your eyebrows and just a little bit above. So let's try.